Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo chat, or I'm sorry, this is my photography shopping stream where we go online together and look for deals on photography accessories and gear. And I try to cherry pick a few deals out ahead of time. And I did find a couple. One actually was referred to me from Heather. So thank you so much for sending that over. It's on a Wandrd bag at the Wandrd site directly, and I'm not affiliate or anything for them, but it is really a good deal. And I was this close to pulling the trigger on one because it was such a good deal, but I just can't do it. I just have, I have 3 backpacks now. I don't, maybe 4. I just don't need another one as good as that bag is. So I'll share that with you today. And then, of course, the spring sale on OM system camera and lenses is still going on. So there's some good deals there, and I'll talk about that. And as always, on the basic accessories that I think every photographer should have in their bag, polarizers, ND filters, some other camera bags and backpacks, as well as tripods and that kind of thing. And I try to make photography, the affordable as I can, without having to buy the top end gear, especially when you're just starting out. I use a lot of the things that I show you today. I bought myself, um, and and I bought a lot of things that weren't so great. And I was thinking this morning, I know a lot of you buy things on my recommendations, and a lot of the things that I do recommend are sight unseen for me. I'm just making my best guess that this is a decent product at a really good price. So if you've bought anything from my recommendations here and you're either happy with it or not happy with it, let me know in the chat section so I can, sort of steer people into the right direction the best I can. So for the better products that were exceptional, I'm happy to continue sharing those when they go on sale. And then for products that didn't meet your expectations, let me know, and I can try and avoid those. It depends why you didn't like it. Maybe it just didn't fit, but it was still a decent product. And in that case, I might continue. But that said, I see Henning's here. Good morning. And Jeff, good to see you. And Anthony, always good to see you. Roger and Eric, good morning. And I see this also generally an open Q&A, so I'll go ahead and answer the first comment here or address it. The Q&A meaning, if you want my opinion or feedback or you have a question, I'll do my best to answer them or give you my thoughts. And this is something that I think Anthony brought up on Sunday, on the Sunday live stream. So I think we've already addressed this, but the XA1 was a clamshell style camera with built-in lens cover and fixed 35 2.8 and was almost half the size of the OM Trip 35, the XA1 leaf shutter. I would like to, looks like there's more here. Like to see a digital version of this camera sporting a 14mm f2. So that would imply a micro four thirds sensor if you want to you would get to a 28mm equivalent, not quite 35. So I think a 17 f2 would be a closer match, right? I'm just making an assumption here. You're talking micro four thirds, or maybe you're talking 1-inch sensor. Maybe the sensor size is not an issue at all. You'd be happy with a small sensor of 1/2.3. So let me know what sensor size you're thinking of for that size camera. And that would kind of dictate the lens focal length, right? Because I assume you don't mean a 14mm same field of view for a full frame camera. Although the XA1 is theoretically a full frame or 35mm film size, right? Which is, the common vernacular these days is to call it full frame, when it really, they should just call it 35mm. Gosh, I meant to show my XA1 in the stream last time, and I had stuffed it inside. I know I put it, oh, here it is. Yeah, no, that's a stylus. I I know I put it in a bag. At least I think I did. Shoot, I really need to find that camera. It might be in the dry box. But you know, it's about this big. You know, it's a very compact camera, and it had a little slider on the front to expose the lens. And it's a neat little camera. You know, I think to try and create a digital version of that, uh, certainly within the realm of, you know, possibility, because you're not asking much. I mean, if I don't think, you know, you're not asking for image stabilization. I don't think that would be doable in a compact size like that. Um, but just a simple point and shoot. But you know, they're. I just don't see honestly the market for that because it would be basically a toy camera. Because to really make it a full-fledged enthusiast compact, you'd have to flush it out with everything people would expect today. And that would mean putting dials on it and buttons and all of that. If you just want a simple point and shoot camera, compact size, there's a lot of those out today with, you know, normal, you know, 1 over 2.3 inch sensors. And then the Sony RX100 is a 1 inch sensor, and that's a little bit smaller than the XA1. And I think the old Fujifilm X70 was about that size, and that had an APS-C sensor in it, but you know, no image stabilization. So yeah, I guess it's possible if they did an X70 back in the day, they could make a Micro Four Thirds. But I don't know, what is it specifically that appealed to you about the XA1 that isn't currently already available in one form or another? I'm curious because I'm not sure what the appeal would be to the general market. Um, you know, to because people would want you to stuff it with all of the latest technology. Otherwise, it would just be a toy camera, a point and shoot. Okay, I wonder if there's a smaller hood version for the set. Yeah, so I use a just a standard metal lens hood. This is a 58 millimeter filter thread. I like this one. You know, you can get shorter ones, but I use this one. This is about that big. You know, it's about 1.5 inches, right? I could measure it, I guess. Oh, wow, this is too. That's the diameter, dumbass. Oops, sorry, excuse my language. Yeah, it's about 1.5 inches. Not quite. A little over 1.25 inches in length. And then the diameter, of course, has a 58 millimeter thread. And I just screw that on. And that works for me best. I like that it's nice and deep to really reduce the reflections as much as possible. If you get anything shorter than that, it's not going to help quite as much. Uh, and it's not necessary because this has a very, very narrow field of view, and a longer lens hood like this is perfectly fine. I don't get any vignetting or anything at all. So I can pull up one of those for you. Um, let's see. Here it is. So this is all you need. $10. This is the same one that I bought. Uh, looks like it even comes with a lens hood and a microfiber cloth. So there's a couple bucks there for you. So I add this to the list. But this is exactly what I use. Okay, and then and good morning to Side Toward Screen. Good to see you. And hello, Rob. Good to see you. An Olympus MGU style camera would be fun. Yep. I mean, they would be fun little cameras. I just don't think that OM System has the bandwidth to crank out like every different variety of camera possible. The market just doesn't support it. You know, when you think about the budget of Canon, Sony, Fuji, I saw this recently somewhere. The God, why is Ellie and my phone and everything going crazy all at once? Um, but yeah, Canon, Nikon, Sony, they all have pretty big budgets, you know, and I think Olympus's budget or OM Systems budget is like 2 billion or something. It's really insignificant compared to the other companies. So they need to focus their attention on what they do best, you know, sports action wildlife type photography and lenses. And I would love to see more variety out of them, but you can't expect them to do that. You know, look how long it's taking to come out with another pen camera. They say they're coming out with one 2027, 2028, and we've already had OM Systems for 4 years, maybe 5 years now. It's been 4 years though, since OM System took over, and there's still no pen. And it's not like they had to start from scratch, right? They already have the basic engineering and tooling and everything to make a pen camera, but they haven't. And I would want OM System to make a micro four thirds sensor in the XA1, which would be highly portable. As far as I'm concerned, the new Panasonic camera that just came out is not small enough for travel. Yeah, that's kind of subjective. It's a pretty small camera. It's not a pocket camera, right? Uh, but like the OM3 is much bigger. Well, it's a bigger camera than the L10, and I consider that an excellent travel camera. A lot of people carry their Leicas, which are bigger than my OM3, and they consider those travel cameras. So it's a little bit of a subjective range that say something's not a travel camera. In your eyes, it is not because of the size. But I would say you're looking more for a pocketable camera. And to me, that's a different beast than, you know, a more robust travel camera, which is what the L10 is, from my point of view. Okay, and then let's see. Astra says, after looking at the hand wrist strap options, I ordered the JJC Deluxe Microfiber Camera Hand Strap, secure padded holder. Do you have experience with hand wrist straps? Yeah, I tried those for a little while, and you know, I had a Peak Design one. That was pretty nice, but I just could never. I I I just didn't like having one hand basically glued to the camera all the time, because once you have the wrist strap on, pretty much the camera's always in your hand. And a lot of times I want my hands to be free so I can go into my camera bag or take off my backpack. But when it's on my wrist, I was always putting it down and I just didn't want to carry it, you know, in my hand the whole time. So that's why I don't go for wrist straps for really anything bigger than a pocketable camera. Now, pocketable cameras, I don't mind a little lanyard or something like that, so that when I am holding it to take a picture, if it slips out of my hands because it's so small, I'm not going to drop it to the ground. And then when I'm not taking a picture, I can just put it in my pocket. So lanyards and aka wrist straps, things like that, I think are appropriate for very small cameras for me, because that would be my workflow, right? Take it out of my pocket, put the wrist strap on, and take a picture so I don't drop it while I'm handling it and going around. But then when I'm not using it, just put the camera back in my pocket. And then my hands are free again. But typically when I go out, I have at the very least, I will carry a little messenger bag. And it's nice to have both hands free. I don't have to set the camera down to kind of go into my bag to take things in and out. But that's just me. Okay, and the new XA1 could possibly be even slightly smaller, being that it uses a small micro four thirds sensor instead of 35 millimeter film. Yeah, potentially. Like I said, the RX100 is a great example of how compact you can make a capable digital camera. And then, you know, Panasonic's had a couple, the LX10, right? That was a very capable camera, similar to the RX100. And then the Fujifilm X70 was an APS-C, very compact camera. So it can be done, but like I said, I wouldn't bet on it. I would be very surprised if they came out with a fixed lens micro four thirds camera. It would just shock me, and it would be a deal breaker for me. I just don't want to buy a fixed lens camera. Meaning, let me rephrase that: a fixed focal length camera, where you can't even zoom in or out. Right? I want it to at least zoom. Hence the L10, and you know, I don't think I have any fixed focal length cameras other than these little toy ones. You know, I got a couple of toy cameras that are fixed focal length, but uh, as far as a legitimate, robust camera, yeah, the smallest one I have is like my Canon ELPH, and even that had a zoom on it. And then I have my LX100s and Deluxe 8, all that stuff. And such a small point shoot image stable is impossible, even APS-C, Ricoh GR, right. And yeah, I totally forgot about the Ricoh GR. Ricoh GR is very compact, not too dissimilar from the XA1 in that respect. It's pocketable, has a good size sensor, a fixed focal length of 28 millimeters. So I don't know if OM Systems is ready to go head to head with a GR4. You know what I mean? Um, I don't see it. I mean, even if they could come in at half the price point, because the GR4 is what, 1500? If they could come in at like half the price point, maybe, but I don't think they can do it. I don't see it. And Gordon, good morning. Good to see you. And the stylus cameras were the newer version of the XA1. The build quality was not quite as good, but they are more automatic. Yes. Rob, can you share the lens hood on your page? Yes, I just did. Sorry. A little behind on the chat. And I want to have image stabilization. I want it to be high-end travel camera that's super compact. As far as concerned, Panasonic missed the mark on introducing the L10. And I think you're in good company in that respect. A lot of people, I did see a lot of comments, you know, throughout the forums that it is a little bit bulky, right? It's the size of the S9, and they just think it's too bulky, too big for what it is. So we'll see. When I get mine in hand next month, hopefully, I think it's released in June, or we'll start shipping in June. I'll show you guys side by side with my other cameras, and then give you a feel for how it feels in hand. I mean, at 500 grams, it weighs the same as my OM3 without a lens. So I imagine it's going to be very similar in size and feel of my OM3. But this has the lens built in, and it has a decent lens at that. I used to make some rubber lens hoods that folded down to about 10 millimeters. I've got a few still in use. Yep. I really like the rubber lens hoods. You know, they are, you know, because they're collapsible, you can, I used to use one a lot on my kit lens, and it was great. Although it did cause a little vignetting on the wide end, because the rubber lens hood needs a little bit taller ring thread to mount the rubber onto. So with rubber lens hoods, you have to be a little careful with wider angle lenses, 28 millimeters or 14 millimeters on micro four thirds, because the field of view starts to encroach onto the actual ring around the lens hood, around the rubber lens hood. The ring is a little bit taller to be able to support the rubber mount. An excellent show the other day with thank you so much, with the other OM System ambassadors. Really inspiring. Yeah, they are an amazing group, those guys. Please do a poll asking YouTube viewers if they would like to see OM Systems bring out a smaller, more compact camera with image stabilization that's smaller than the L10. That has a built-in lens cover. Okay, I can do that. And then, good morning, Kevin. Always good to see you. And Henning, exactly what I meant. No way for OM to step into the ring with competitors like Ricoh at this time. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Henning, on that. That even though everybody would want a camera like that from OM Systems, I don't think they could do it. How's it going to compete with, say, a Ricoh GR4 that sells for $1,500? Be a tough call. It would be a tough sell, I think, to a lot of people. Because I assume you're going to want an LCD screen, and I think if they took the LCD screen out, like if all they had were like little LCD screens, something small, if they took the LCD screen out, yeah, I think it would just end up being a toy. The GR4 has an LCD screen, but it doesn't articulate. If you want an articulating LCD, it would be tough. It's a tough sell because that's a lot of engineering and design. It's not like they can really pull things off the shelf and make it. They'd have to do it from scratch basically, because they don't have anything like that. And based on recent pricing, I don't see OM Systems undercutting anyone. Yeah. No. Prices are, that said, the price of everything is going up. And, like the A7R5 just came, or A7R6, is it? Yes, the 6. What are they asking? $4,200 for that camera. The A1s are 6,000. But then when we go down the line to the entry level models, you have the Nikon, what is it, the Z5 Mark II at about 1,600. You have Fujifilm's XT5s and XT30s, or XT50, I'm sorry, XT50s in the 1,500 range. So a lot of cameras are around 1,500. You can get a really decent camera. Between 1,500 and 2,000. But that's roughly, the OM5 is what, 1,100? But that's really not as capable as the other cameras I just mentioned, right? It doesn't have any kind of subject detect, and but it's a different camera. It's smaller, lighter, weather sealed. It has kind of a different niche or a different purpose than these other cameras that are more general purpose, right? But yeah, the Z5 II, the Z6 II, now we're getting into over 2,000. And that's really about where all of OM System cameras are, right? The OM3 and the OM1 Mark II, we're talking $2,000 plus or minus, depending on sales. And then all the lenses, I think the prices are justified for the most part, but they're not cheap either, right? Now there are awesome lenses to be had at good prices. I really love the 75 to 300. So let's go to my deal page, and Where is it? Right here. Because I did pull up some lenses here. You know, this lens, the 40 to 150 kit lens, I'm going to use that today at my nephew's graduation. The 45 1.8, these are stellar lenses at really reasonable prices. And then the 75 to 300 here, $4.99. You know, that's an awesome lens. Panasonic has their version over here. That's an incredible lens. I'd say equivalent to the 40 to 150. So just buy the matching brand. You have a Panasonic camera, get the Panasonic version. But they do have some other lenses on sale here. Their recently released 50 to 200 here is 300 bucks off. So that's, you know, 7-8% there. And people love that lens. The people that have it and can work with that focal length, they do like that lens. And then the 12 to 100, also an incredible lens, $11.99. And I think at these price points, you know, particularly this 12 to 100 f4 is an amazing, amazing lens. So if you can afford this one, I would highly recommend this one. If you're more on a budget, these lenses here, the 75 to 300 and the 40 to 150, these are amazing telephoto lenses at this basically a budget price. And then I put in a couple of outliners here. Brighton Star has always made really good lenses. So I would suspect, and this has gotten good reviews as well, the 7.5 2.8. It's a wide angle. Does have the fisheye distortion, but it's not as bad as, say, the Mikey here, which this is a lens I own under a different brand name. But this is a great lens. You get a full circular fisheye view. I've shown this lens before when it's been on sale. And, you know, this is a fun little lens to have. Now, yeah, $136. That'll be a really fun $136. You'll really enjoy that lens if you like super wide angle photography. Same thing with this 7.5. This is a nice lens for $139. There's also a 10% coupon or something going on here, so be sure to check that out. I mean, I don't, you know, you could get both of these. They're very different lenses. This is not a full circular fisheye. This just has a lot of barrel distortion. Whereas this one is a full circular fisheye. You can get literally 360 degrees around the lens. It's pretty slick. Okay, and then I did add one other thing here. This came up in the stream yesterday. I ordered it this morning. Clear plexiglass. This is the 3mm thick or 1/8 inch. They do have thinner ones and thicker ones. I felt 6mm might be a bit too thick, but 3mm seems about the right thickness. They have 1mm sheets, but those tend to crack because they're just too thin. They're too flexible. So I went with the 3mm thickness and an 8x12. And this I'm going to use for my close-up and macro photography, for like, particularly for like flowers. And being clear and shoot through, you still get that nice background or environment of this, you know, the environment surrounding the subject when you're doing close-up photography. Because what I had been using before was just a notebook. Oops. You know, I would just take this binder with me, and I would just, you know, I would just set it around the subject like this to block the wind so the flowers don't keep moving around. But this one, I get a white background. I got a black one too if I want to do black backgrounds, but I think a clear shoot through would be kind of nice. And it's on sale now for $8. So if you like to do flower photography or close-up photography and you want to include the environment and stop the wind from blowing and stuff, and you want to do focus bracketing or even stacking, this is a really neat little trick. So I'm going to take the two pieces, put them together, and just put some tape behind it. I'm going to use clear packing tape to put them together. But I think that'll be good. Okay, so there's that. So let's see. And then, memory cards just continue to just go up in price. I put a couple here that are decent. So you can get a pair of 128s, a matched set of V60s from Lexar for $130. So this will be good for 99% of us out there, and you'll get really basically the same performance in our photography when it comes to buffering and clearing the buffer with this memory card with a V60 as you would a V90. So don't spend money on a V90 if you're primarily going to be doing it because you want to make sure your buffer clears quickly. The V90 card here, this is one that I've bought before. Gosh, how long does it show when I bought it? Let me see. No. I bought this one a few years ago, a V90, and this is about what I paid for it years ago. The prices kind of came down for a little while since I bought it, and now they've gone back up to what I paid for it a few years ago. But this is a decent deal for a 128 gig V90, and Kingston is an excellent brand. Now the V90 card, the reason you would get this is for very high bitrate video. Most video will work 4K, 8K, whatever, but they have even higher bitrate. The bitrate is what makes the difference in dictating if you need a V90 card or not. So if you look at the new Panasonic L10 at the specs, you can do every video mode on that except for one with a V60 card. There is one video mode, a very high bitrate video mode, that requires a V90. So those of you that need a V90 card, this is a good deal. And then here's a very generic 256 gig V60, but it's getting good reviews. They've been on Amazon a long time. But I'm telling you, once this is gone at this price, they're not going to have any left. Just ignore what they say here, only 2 left. I don't know if I can believe that or not, to be honest, but I have seen things sell out, particularly in the memory card space. So I don't see any issue with this card. It's got the same usual great reviews and a few of the negative reviews that get into how the card fails after 6 or 8 months. But you could look at any top tier SD card, you'll get the same negative reviews that the card failed after 3 or 6 months. So, but generally the overall theme seems like this is a good card. This is not a card that I've personally bought, but I did buy another generic card for about half this price, and I shared it with you guys here on my stream, and I said you need to get this now before they're gone. And I know at least Heather did buy a pair of these, and she's been very happy with it. But if you don't want to go generic, Sabrent is a third party, say relative to say somebody like SanDisk, right, and Lexar. Those are kind of more mainstream. Sabrent is equally as good, in my opinion, as a third-party memory card. So, you can get a V60 128 gig. The 512 is already jacked up to 175. That's a good deal, but you can get a couple of 128s. And for photography, for photography, 128 is usually more than enough. I've only filled up a 128 card once or twice, and I was kind of going at it that day. Okay, and then speaking of which, I always look for good deals on filters, particularly polarizers and ND filters. This one is a combination polarizer, ND, and black mist. So this is a really, really good filter for portrait photography when you're using it with flash, and also for videography. And the 72 millimeter filter thread is actually, I didn't think it was, but it's actually quite common in Micro Four Thirds as well, like the 40 to 150 f2.8, the 12 to 100 f4, two very popular lenses that this filter would work with and would be excellent for doing portrait photography. The only thing is that this is not a true color ND filter, so you do need to make sure you white balance or color check your images either in the field or in post-processing. Have a way to do that, like, you know, have a white card or gray card with you so that you can adjust the white balance and color, because there is a slight, usually with these filters that don't claim true color, they are usually, there's a slight color shift to the orange. I've never had a problem adjusting the color in post-processing. I tend to buy true color variable ND filters now because I just don't want to deal with the color shift. But before I bought those, I did have color shift on these, and it wasn't really a big deal. I was able to adjust it. And 30 bucks is a really good deal to get all three into one. Another good deal here, same thread, 72 millimeters. You got a variable ND, a circular polarizer, and black diffusion filters. So you can save 10 bucks and get them separately. Personally, I would prefer it this way, as separate filters, rather than the all-in-one. The all-in-one is good for, like I said, doing portraits and things, but as a photographer that's more general, you know, I might want to use the polarizer, but not the mist filter, right? Or I may want to just use the mist filter, but not have the ND filter. So this gives you a little more flexibility in your photography, and it's cheaper. It's 20 bucks. And again, 40 to 150, 12 to 100 lenses. This is an ideal filter kit. Comes with the case and little microfiber cloth. And then they have the blower here on sale for 7 bucks. That's a good deal. You can always use a blower in the field, or, you know, when you're cleaning your camera when you get back from the field. These are really handy, particularly for cleaning out the sensor of dust, because you don't want dust to stay on the sensor too long, because sometimes even with all our anti-dust technology, you know, dust can stick on a sensor, and a little blower might just get that off painlessly, right? Another filter, this is 58 millimeters. This will fit like the 12 to 45 f4 Pro lens. It's a separate variable ND and black diffusion filter. 10 bucks, and it looks like it comes with a lanyard, lens cap, and a microfiber cloth. So you're getting all of that for 10 bucks. That's a deal. That's a really good deal. So yeah, I can recommend this, again, with the caveat of just watch your you know, this is ideal for portraits, right? And also to get slower shutter speeds. ND 400, what is that exactly? I keep getting my numbers mixed up, but you know, you can get longer shutter speeds with this. Combine it with if you have built-in variable ND, or if you have a built-in live ND or grad ND filter, you can combine this. And then related to, since we were talking about portraits, they have some really nice soft boxes on sale. You have to clip the coupon, but $56.99, you get a 35-inch collapsible softbox. So this collapses down flat. So it's really easy to carry and take with you everywhere out in the field. So I like this. I have something similar to this with, you know, with the taller rectangular ones, and it just makes it easy to pack everything up, keep it nice and compact. And this is another one from Ambiful. Same idea. It's collapsible. It closes down flat. This one actually has a picture, so you can close it down flat and take it with you. And this is for the 32-inch, and this one is $4 cheaper, or $5 cheaper. It's $52. But it is a little bit smaller. And 31-inch is a good size. That's a really very comfortable size. Whether it's 31 or 36, you're not going to be able to see much difference in your photos. So get the one that you like better of the two. It's only a $4 price spread. And then all of these things are still on sale or a pretty good deal. Oh, let me share the one that Heather shared with me. So you can see here the Wandrd I don't know, whatever, 21-liter bag here is $179 on Amazon. But if you go to Wandrd directly, this is the version 3. It's a little bit different. Let me see if they have the Wandrd V3. I don't see it. I don't see it. But anyway, right here they have it for $131. That's 40% off, but I think for another few hours. So you have to act fast if you want this deal. When you add it to your shopping cart, you will get another 20% off. So you're going to pay $71.83. But I also have a coupon here. Let me copy this coupon to give you that 5, looks like 5% off. I'm going to put that in the chat section. So that'll save you another 5%. So otherwise it'd be $75, but now it's 71 and change with this extra 5% coupon. And there's $10 shipping charge. So this total comes to something like 70. Let's just see, checkout. If I go to checkout, and then shipping, yeah, shipping's $10. So all the coupons and discounts applied, it comes out to $89.74. And you can uncheck this if you don't want package protection, and it'll come down to $81 because shipping goes down to $5. So you can get this for as little as $81.13. A bag that normally retails for over $200, and this is an excellent bag. I just love it. Now, let me just give you a couple of caveats with this bag, though. This bag is just an open backpack. Okay, there's no dividers or anything inside. So what you need to do is you can buy the dividers separately from Wandrd that'll fit in this bag perfectly, but it's like $60. What I found on Amazon some dividers and things. Anywhere I paid as little as like $5 to $20 for something that would serve the same function. It's not as slick as the one from Wandrd that's $60, but yeah, I've bought things that have served the same function. So, you know, like if we put in here a camera divider, let's see, you can get these things for $10. This is the one from Wandrd that's like $59.20. Here's one for $18. You can buy just the dividers like this, 6 pieces for $27. You can get something like this for $42. Check the measurements to make sure it'll fit inside the bag, but this looks like it would fit inside. Here's one for $15.99. This is actually one that I have, and on and on, right? So there are certainly more affordable solutions, although not quite as slick, right, as buying it directly from the company that makes the bag. But keep that in mind. There's no dividers in here. It's just a backpack. But you can buy their backpack if you want. It's this one for $59. And you can buy it from Wandrd directly if you want, together with the bag. So thank you, Heather, for sharing that with us. That was a really great deal. I'm tempted for $81 to get it, but I'm looking over here. I got 2 backpacks. I got 2 more in the closet, and I know I got 1 out there. So that's probably 5 backpacks already. I just don't need another one. And I have one of similar size, but that's a great deal. Okay, eBay got rid of their fees, might bring back traditional sellers. Really? Wow. I would be surprised they got rid of all their fees. Because right now I'm paying 13 to 15% when I sell on eBay. I thought it was interesting that the new Sony 100 to 400 f4.5 is half the price of the 150 to 400 f4.5 Pro. Exactly. So right now it's selling, it's like a $4,500 lens, and the 150 to 400 is 8,500, give or take, right? So basically half the price for all intents and purposes. And they have the same focal length. The only difference between the 2 lenses really from a feature standpoint is the 150 to 400 has that built-in 1.5x teleconverter. So from that standpoint, what's that worth? If they were to add that to the Sony one, it's what, $500 or $600 to buy a teleconverter separately. So to have it integrated into the lens should be less, but let's just say it's $500 more. It still only put that lens at like $5,000, right? And it would be basically the same as the 150 to 400. And as we all know, lenses are not made equally. If you were to be able to adapt the 150 to 400 to a Sony body, would it be sharper? Who knows? We'll never know, right? And if we compare, I'm a little bit curious though. I haven't looked into it, but I did make a mental note of that, that it is about half the price. But let me put in the Sony 100 to 400. And this is the new one for $4,300. And then the OM 150 to 400 is $8,600. And that's the sale price. That's insane. Okay, so here we have them side by side, right? Full price $4,300, full price $9,000. So it is half the price basically, more than half. But with discount, still half the price, right? Exactly, almost exactly half the price. The only thing, let's just eyeball this for a minute and see. So we have 1 to 4 versus 1 to 7 points. So this has a higher magnification. Same number of elements, just grouped differently. This has more blades. Same, yeah, that makes sense. Same filter thread in the front. And just a hair bit lighter. Just a hair, about 40 grams. So for all intents and purposes, the Sony looks to be the same as the OM System one. Size, weight, magnification. Significantly better close-up though, right? You can do 1 to 4 versus 1 to 7 point something. But optically, are they the same? And they both have image stabilization. Optically, are they the same? That is the question, right? Because when you get into this top tier glass, and this is Sony's top tier GM, right? The G Master. We can assume that it has basically the same optical quality as the OM system. You know, the key difference being is that OM system has no competition, right? That I can think of. No third party competition where Sony has a ton. You can buy the 500 millimeter f5.6 from Sigma for less than this, I believe. I think that's a 3,000 something dollar lens. So that's partially, I think, what's driving the price. If Sony had zero competition, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to charge $9,000 or $10,000 for that lens. But yeah, why is the OM system one double the price, right? And that seems to be the going trend. A lot, you know, the 50 to 200, that's not a cheap lens either at $3,400. I'd love to have the 150 to 400, but what are my options? If I were to buy the Sony 100 to 400 together with the new Sony a7R5, R6, which has 30 frame per second silent shutter and pre-capture, and I can crop in, and I'll still get probably 30 megapixel image. So I'll even get more pixels than I will with an OM system. And I'm not trading too much in size and weight because the lenses are the same weight. And that's where a lot of people uh, try to compare Micro Four Thirds with full frame is, well, the lenses are smaller. Well, if you're buying the same focal length and you can crop in and get, you know, the same, if not more megapixels, like in this case, where's the advantage at this point? Because the bodies, I think the Sony a7R6 is probably 200 grams more than say the OM1 Mark II. If that, it's 1 or 200 grams more. An argument can be made, a solid argument can be made, rather than buy the 150 to 400, buy the Sony 100 to 400 together with the Sony a7R5. Definitely an argument can be made for that. With this new lens from Sony. So I like that lens. I like it. I'm never gonna buy it. It's so expensive. I'd rather honestly save up for the 150 to 400 because, you know, I just love my home system cameras. Okay, and then Anthony says the smaller, more compact cameras sell more to masses, which helps feed R&D for the more expensive cameras uh, and lenses. Yeah, they'd have to recoup the R&D to make the camera first, and then once they go on beyond that break, like I said, I don't see them selling enough when GR4 is out there. You know, like the OM3 monochrome camera, I was surprised that uh, there wasn't as much interest as I thought there would be. It is a niche camera, so that it kind of makes sense, but it was much lower than I expected. The and doing a poll on YouTube from my channel, our viewers are biased, right? Like you would definitely buy one, right, Anthony? So you would be a yes. And I bet a lot of my viewers would also uh, look for something like that. So you know, you have to take any polls that I do on my channel with a grain of salt, in the sense that, you know, my viewers are kind of biased and in the Micro Four Thirds world, right? We're kind of in uh, that bubble, so to speak. But if you were to do a poll, just say go to Walmart and just ask everybody as they're coming out, would you buy a small compact camera? Would you, you know, of all the cameras out, you know, I guarantee that the interest would be, you would be lucky to find one person coming out of Walmart that would want a camera. They'd rather just use their cell phone. Because that's the most compact camera out there. now, right? It's just one of these. And these two really amazing photography for the masses. So when you say the camera will sell more to the masses, I think that's incorrect. The masses are going to use their cell phone. The only people that are going to buy that camera are like more photography enthusiasts like ourselves, and we're a we're a dying breed, essentially, right? We're a very small part. Uh, there are plenty of exceptions in the toy camera world, like whatever that little thing Robin Wong likes or did review on. I don't know if he likes it or not, but he did a review on it. For 60, $100, whatever that thing costs, uh, those will fly off the shelf because the price point is so low. You can't put that, onto a camera that's going to cost, say, $1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000. You know. But I'll put the poll out there. We'll see how it goes. Rob, OM System has discounts on all their lenses on their site. Yes. I have a couple of the lenses on my deal page. So you can buy through my Amazon affiliate links, or you can just buy directly from OM Systems. And I found overseas a lot of times there's even better deals than we get here in the US. My wish is a premium OM3 version that had the best EVF technology available. I'd pay X. Really? I don't know. The EVF never bothered me. I never, like I've been taking my OM1 out recently for some birding instead of my OM3. And I wasn't like just wowed right away by the difference in the EVF. Um, I'm not as sensitive to the EVF as a lot of people. It's really, long as a regular OLED display, 2.3 million dots, I'm fine. The 5.6 whatever million in the OM1, it's nice, but it's more for video. When I was recording video, it's nice to look at it on the nicer EVF. But for photography, because I'm always zooming in, right, in and out, I can just zoom in to 14x and pixel peep, and it's fine on a 2.3 thing. For video work, though, I did appreciate the difference. Because you can't really punch in on video, right? When you're looking at it through the EVF, you have to play it back, and the aspect ratio recorded is 16:9. And Anton says, lately I have been using a 20mm f1.4. Okay. And the 75-1.8 photographing my adult kids' university convocations. Light can be an issue, yes. Both really, really nice lenses. I probably, I don't use my 75 hardly at all. It's probably been a couple years now, sadly. And then the 21.4, I have a 25 1.4, so it's close enough for me. The Artemis 3 mission, they traveled around the moon and took photos of Earth. They photographed through thick glass and had something in front of the lens. I'd like to take photos of a fish in an aquarium. What should I buy, hard or soft lens? And how close should the lens be to the glass of the aquarium? Oh, yeah, I would say a rubber lens hood would be better. They sell they sell really big rubber lens hoods that are designed to shoot through glass. So I don't know how big your aquarium is, but any rubber lens hood would be better than a hard lens hood, right? One, so you don't scratch your glass, okay? You don't, because a lot of the lens hoods are metal, but even the plastic ones, sometimes the fish tanks are plastic plexiglass. So you don't want to scratch your aquarium, and a rubberized lens hood gives you a little flexibility to tilt the camera a little bit, right? It doesn't have to be perfectly flush against the glass to get a nice seal. Because what you're trying to do is minimize the reflections from the glass by covering it with the lens hood, right? So that you know, it just sits. Oh gosh, I don't have. Uh, you want it to go like this, right? You want it. Say this is the glass. You want the lens to be completely flush against the aquarium, and a rubber lens hood would make that even easier and not scratch your glass. Yes, the 8 to 25. Yep, it does take the and it is a good combo with the 12 to 100. And filter, polarizer. Polarizer is very useful. And oh, that's my coupon, so don't forget that if you want to get that bag. And I did have an SD card fail recently, and it failed around the switch. The plastic cracked. From now on, if I can help it, I'm buying rugged SD cards without switches. They do sell SD cards. I used to have them on my site. I took them off. Let me see if I put it somewhere else. I probably didn't, but let me just double check. I will find it. Give me 1 second, Anthony. This is the card that you want. I mean, a rugged card, obviously, right? Because they're usually made of metal, I think. And they are very durable. Delkin. It's the Delkin ribless, no write protection. So let me find that. So I'm going to add this one to my list. How come it's not coming? Give me a second. There it is. Okay. So so all I did was I searched for Delkin ribless, and this is what comes up, right? They're not cheap though. I don't know how these compare to the Sony Tough cards, but if you take a look at this one, this is a V60. It doesn't have, you know, the memory card slot thing. It has the notch for it, but you can see that there's no switch inside there. And also, what, they don't show a picture. Let me see. They don't show a picture. But on the other side, there's no ribs on the slots. You'd think they'd show a picture. Let's try a smaller card. Yeah, the Delkin Black. These are the rugged cards with no ribs. They're just not showing a picture of it. But anyway, that's a good memory card that's very rugged. That is an alternative to the Sony Tough cards. Ooh, a lot of chat here. When I bought my Mark II and 150 to 600, I only bought 2 SD cards configuring the price would drop significantly after a year or two, opposite of what happened. Yeah, I know. I only recommend not only tough or rugged card does not matter which manufacturer makes. If the message comes up on your camera that your SD card is corrupt or not accepted, take out the SD card and inspect for cracks before putting it back in. Plenty of risk of it getting stuck in the slot. Yeah, so watch out, particularly the plastic pins. Those are a bitch. If they break and go inside your camera, I had that happen to me once, but I was able to shake it out, fortunately. But if I couldn't, that would have been a serious problem. And the 1.4 versus the 1.7 maybe, but consider close focus distance. Plus, the 100 to 400 on OM is twice the reach. Well, that's because our sensors are cropped, right? So, that said, the pixel density on the A7R6 is so tight that you could crop the APS-C mode. That would give you a 600 millimeter equivalent. And then you can crop again to micro four thirds mode, and that would give you almost the same, if not, that would give you basically the same. But I think you would be down to probably 12 or 13 megapixels at that point once you crop down, because you have to divide by, I don't know the math exactly. I can just calculate it real quick. Let me calculate this. So according to Google, it would be around 17 megapixels. So you're still pretty close. You could crop to micro four thirds on a Sony A7R6 and still get 17 megapixels. So it's pretty close. So yeah, while it's twice the reach, it's only because our sensors are already cropped. If you were to crop that Sony A7R6 down to the micro four thirds, it would be 17 megapixels, not 20. So in theory, even the Sony A7R6 cannot beat our micro four thirds in terms of getting pixels onto the subject, right? We can still get more pixels on the subject at the same field of view, essentially. Paul says, I would imagine amortization would be complete now on the 150 to 400, but still no price drop. Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, I understand a price increase, but man, that's asking $9,000. From my experience in engineering and tooling, design costs are usually spread over the first 2 or 3 years. Okay. And then, yeah, Paul makes the point, if you were to just mount that on. So that's why I say I usually approach it this way, is when OM Systems or whoever takes their 300 millimeter f4 lens and say, this is the same as a 600 millimeter lens on a full frame, it's the same in terms of the field of view, but the angle of view is different, right? The angle of view at 600 millimeters is different than the angle of view at hopefully I'm getting these terms right, the angle of view at 300 millimeters. So to really, and that's because our sensors are already cropped. So you need to change, you need to put the same focal length on a full frame and a micro four thirds, as Paul is suggesting here, to really do a comparison between two camera systems and two lenses. So there's a 300 millimeter f2.8 from Sony. That's like $5,000. I don't know what it costs. It's expensive. But they have a 300 millimeter f2.8. OM Systems has their 300 millimeter f4. But ultimately, the OM system camera, I'm I could I can't say out of experience, but my friend has the Sony A1 and 300F 2.8, and we go out side by side all the time shooting the same subjects, right? And I have my 300 millimeter f4, my OM1 or OM3, and I can tell you that our images are not too dissimilar in terms of image quality. I would argue mine is actually a little better, but I'm biased. So, but yeah, side by side, can you really tell a difference? I have a very, very recent example. Let's see. Let me download this image she sent. And we'll compare this to my image that I took of the same bird. Now we were standing from different angles. These weren't taken exactly at the same moment, obviously, but it's the same bird in the same tree about the same time. I don't know what her exif data is, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is the Sony A1 with the 300 millimeter f2.8. I'm not sure if she had her teleconverter on or not. And then here's mine. I did a little better job with the white balance, but let me just make these roughly the same size. But this is a great example of, I had my teleconverter on. I think she had hers on. I'm pretty sure she did. She has a 2x teleconverter. So that's kind of affecting so she's at 600 f f5.6 in this case. But yeah, this is a very common theme when we go out side by side and we take the same pictures. Part of it's because I'm a little better at post-processing, but ultimately I feel like I'm getting better images shot to shot to shot than she is with her setup. That cost, more than double my setup. So, but anyhow, yeah. And then this side towards screen says, for a few days, the Lumix USA website sold out of all their L10s. Now it seems all the colors are back in stock. Wondering if this is planned. I have no idea. But it's good that they sold out for a little bit, right? But if they're doing it intentionally, in that they said, okay, let's just say they're sold out, even though we're not, that would be bad. And let's see. Super, I go for soft rubber. Yes, definitely for soft rubber. If your intent is to push up against glass or plexiglass, you definitely want to do that. And then looked again, it's sold out. Really. And don't do anything. You never know when you might need a second one. Okay, I get you guys were chit-chatting there. That's funny. So I think I got all the chat and I shared all the deals that I wanted to share today. How are we doing on time here? Oh, just a little over an hour. We're doing good. Making sure I'm not forgetting anything. I think we're good. So any other questions or anything you guys want to talk about, or Can we end it here? It's up to you guys. The only advantage of full frame camera is you can use the Super 35 mode and still retain a good amount of megapixels. I still prefer to compose in camera, then I can hope for a good crop in post. Yes. So, like a friend of mine, I told them, just shoot an APS-C mode on your full frame camera when you're shooting with that telephoto lens. You're going to crop anyway in post-processing. So why not just have it already cropped in camera? And you should theoretically get better performance because you're not asking the camera to scan the whole image and write the whole, you're asking the camera to do a lot less in terms of writing the image. And they're very happy with that advice. And I would recommend that to really any full frame shooter. Just shoot an APS-C mode if you're going to go out birding. Why crop it in post? Just crop it in camera right off the bat, because you're going to crop anyway. For birds in flight, birds that are far away, small birds. And I can do that on my Sony, right? I can put it in APS-C mode no matter what lens I put on there, and it'll just crop in. So I think that works. And Anthony says, I don't know about anybody else. If a new Mark III came out with only 24 megapixels and a new image processor with double the processing power of the current Mark II, I would be more than pleased. Yeah, the thing is, they never tell you how much, well, I guess they do. But if it's double the processing power, that's always welcome. The 24 megapixels is not going to happen. I mean, I could be wrong, of course, right? It's just my opinion. I just don't see OM Systems making a 24 megapixel camera. Yeah. Because I don't think currently there's anything off the shelf that does 24 megapixels with a stacked sensor. Panasonic has that sensor, but that's not a stacked sensor, like in the G9 Mark II. But of all the things, my biggest wish for an all-in-one Mark III is really faster processing and more computational modes that, like what we find in cell phones and action cameras. Those things are way ahead in terms of features, on the computational side and in the workflow side. Because it's such a pain in the butt to use a self-timer or remote trigger with a real camera or the app. There's like 3 or 4 different ways to fire a camera remotely for selfies and group shots. When, like my little Insta360, I just do this and it takes a picture. If I want to record a video, I just do this and it records video if I'm in the frame. Or I can do it by voice command. I can just verbally say, take a picture or record video, stop recording, things like that. So there's some really nice workflow things with the little Insta360. And then on the computational side, the latest, there's an app that I can't get on my Android, but what was it called? Something Indigo, Project Indigo. It does a lot of the computational things that our own system cameras do and more. It also applies AI to that somehow. So yeah, I really like to see a big bump in processing speed. Like I don't like waiting 15 seconds for high-res shot mode or focus stacking. It'd be nice if it was more instantaneous. Like 2 or 3 seconds I'd be happy with, but if it was instant, all the better. And then combining computational modes and of course better autofocus, right? Being able to shoot a bird that's behind a stick, because that's still an issue a lot of times. Rob, your DxO presets are really good. Thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad you like them. I am tweaking them a little bit. I'm finding that my extra sharp, because I have 3. I have my standard, my extra sharp, and one built for high-res shot mode for our OM system cameras. And just keep in mind, these presets are tuned to my OM system cameras or 20 megapixel images. If you're trying to use these same presets on, higher or lower megapixel cameras. I don't know if the results would be quite exactly what I intended. They'll probably still be fine, but my intent was very, very specific. 20 megapixel sensor, high-res shot mode, extra detail, and then standard. Standard will work 99% of the time. Extra detail is fine. But what I've been finding on that particular one is I've been backing off the lens sharpness a little bit. It's just a little bit too crispy for, especially when I have to crop in a lot. If I don't have to crop in a lot, it works great. But if I have to crop in a lot, like on a lot of my bird photography, I've had to back off that optical lens optimization slider. So I have it set at 150 now. I've been backing it off to 120 instead of 150. Is the megapixel obsession lessening as of late? No, it's not, because we're at 66 now. And we, in full frame, we have 100 megapixels on our medium format. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, people are always hammering for more megapixels. It's just what the market demands. It's a sign of progress, or a perception of progress, when you have more megapixels. And the Lumix is marking the S9 $400. So I assume you mean marking it down $400. It's nice. I mean, if it had a real hot shoe and an electronic shutter, I would have strongly considered it. But those two things kind of missing. I was like, it's going to be pretty limited use for me. And then Paul says, one thing I would like to see is a quick way to switch between 25 and 50 frames per second. Oh. Well, the quickest way would be to create two custom modes, right? C3 would be 50 frames per second, C4 would be 25, and then just assign a button to C1 and to C2, C3 and C4, for example. That would be the easiest way. And I kind of rushed through that a little because I know you know what you're doing when I say, you understand what I'm saying, in other words. And 1497 regular price, $18.99. Okay, I assume that's with the lens on the S9. And I think higher megapixel 4/3 sensor that is fully stacked would be prohibitively expensive, not worth it for an increase in resolution, which is largely a check mark on a spec list. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just a perception of from a consumer standpoint when they're going out and buy a camera for the first time. More megapixels means more advanced. It's far out there, and OM will never have a flagship camera with a sensor that isn't fully stacked and blazing fast. Yes. And I've used up custom modes at the moment to switch between frames per second. So if you don't want to use up your custom modes, is there another way? I wonder. I can't think of any way to do it. I think it's Nikon or somebody that they have a boost button, right? So you can push it and it'll boost it to the fastest frames per second only while you're pushing that button. Something like that. That would be kind of cool thing to add to. And I don't see why they couldn't do that in firmware. Because we're not adding any new features. We're just adding a button, right? Or mapping a button to be able to do that. We're mapping a menu line item to a button. So it should be a firmware update. It's not a new feature, right? That would be a nice new feature. And Henning said, I wouldn't want to buy a more megapixel MFT sensor. I'd rather have more power on the existing one. Comp mode's okay. Now Rob said everything. Rob, do you always use the highest pure raw setting, or do you set lower noise reduction? No, I don't always use the highest. I don't use pure raw, I use DxO, and in DxO it automatically sets to something in the middle. There's the slider is from 0 to 100, and I almost always use 40, which is the default setting. Once in a while I'll back it off a little bit, depending on the image. That's very rare, but sometimes I have backed it off a little, which would be a low setting in pure raw. But in pure raw, just use whatever's in the middle. It's fine. Okay, why don't we call it here? So you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to use my affiliate links for everything, not just today, every day, and you'll have a good day, right? As I always like to say. But you know, lots of good stuff in the stream, lots of good deals. So check those out, especially that Wandrd deal. I want that bag so bad, but I can't do it. I just got so many things I wanted so bad, then I got 5 of them. But thanks for being with me again today. It's always a fun discussion as well in the chat section. You guys really have a great day, eat healthy and exercise, and I hope to see you guys all again soon.